big.
Yeah, that's increased in size.
Yes,
Every 2 or 3
It's increased in size.
quite remarkable.
Why don't we fix it?
It's amazing how much it can handle, like how much capacity.
Welcome everyone to our Logan Municipal Council meeting. It is 5:30. I'm calling this meeting into order. Our opening ceremony is by Pastor Ron Flesner.
Welcome back.
Thank you. He's embarrassed.
First, I really appreciate the reading of the prayer proclamation a couple weeks ago. I love this year's theme. Pray fervently in righteousness and avail much. Prayer is not a mind game. It's not a psychological exercise. We are really talking to the creator of the universe, who is great, mighty, powerful, and loving. The theme, what I like about it, is it encourages us to seek the Lord constantly in prayer, just as he taught us in the Gospels to seek, to ask, and to knock. Part of that is for us to see things happen in this world. But the main point of it is for us to spend time with him. So with that, I would just encourage you to pray. Pray as often as you can. Logan City needs our prayers. Some great days are coming ahead. There are some trials coming ahead. And prayer is going to make the difference. And is going to turn what appears to be apparent defeat into victory. Because that's what the Lord wants to see here in the city of Logan. So join me in prayer right now, and then after that we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Lord Jesus, I thank you that we can come to you constantly. I thank you that you want us to come to you constantly. Lord, there are so many things that everyone here in this room represents, and you've got an answer for each situation, whether it's financial, relational, or whatever it is, Lord God. Lord, for the needs facing the city right now, we just lift them up and pray for the council tonight as it meets to really just experience your wisdom, Lord God, and to honor you in all the decisions that are made, and to truly lift up your word, which tells us to treat each other as to love our neighbors as we love ourselves. Lord Jesus, have your way in this meeting tonight, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Now would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Flesner. Next in our agenda, we have the acceptance of the minutes and the approval of the agenda for tonight.
We're just going to all sit here and
Well, I was just waiting for you.
I would move acceptance of the minutes and the approval for tonight's agenda.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. We'll move on with our agenda then. Just a reminder for our community that our regular meetings are the first and the third Tuesdays of the month at 5:30, and our next meeting will be on June 6th. Now is the time for anybody in the public who wishes to address the council or the mayor with any topics, items that are not on the agenda for tonight. So if it's on the agenda, please wait for that time for the action items. But if it's not on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less.
Good evening, Dr. Gail B. Yost. I live in a neighborhood that had a fire 3-4 years ago around the block from where I live. And the neighborhood is getting very upset that nothing has been done to tear down that house. It caused a death of somebody who lived in that house for a very long time, and his family lived next door. And it's on 2nd South, just on the south side of where the church was. And we really need to have that. We're worried about homeless people being there and being endangered because of it. We're worried about stray animals. The prior owner did not keep his lawn very clear of feces and other problems, but we still need to have it cleared up. We still need to have that taken care of, and it's been several years. And one particular neighbor is worried about that because her backyard abuts with the backyard of that property. And she has always had a battle with the prior owner, the man who passed away, about him stealing her irrigation water. And so it's really important to her to have that property cleared so that it can be reused in some manner for the city, for the neighborhood. So I'm here to express our concern as a neighborhood and being part of the neighborhood council. That's very important to me, to make sure our neighborhood is in good shape.
Thank you. We'll look in, we'll check out and see who the property owner is and what ordinances might apply to that.
So Holly, I believe that, Russ, didn't you tell me someone had purchased that home? The one on 2nd South that burned? Didn't you tell me?
First East and Main.
Yeah, right across from Joanne's, just south of Joanne's. I thought you told me somebody had purchased it and was going to rehab it or something. Ooh, I don't remember who it was.
I'll have staff look into that again and see what relevant codes might apply to that situation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yost.
I gotta remember who it was that bought it.
Hi, I don't know if I can speak. I want to talk about that Sugar Creek subdivision. I know there's no public hearing, but
We had one last week.
I know, but can I make any comments about it?
No.
Given that we had a public comment opportunity 2 weeks ago,
Yeah, I know.
I'm inclined to not allow it at this moment, unless the council would like to hear.
Does she have something in writing? Do you have something in writing, Joanne, that you could give us?
Well, okay, I won't talk about that then, I guess. My main thing was to ask you what helps you make the decision about it. I wasn't going to talk about that specifically. How much the public opinion weighs on you, basically. Or you have other considerations, I know that. So which holds the most weight in your decision?
Good question.
I'll just say that I said in my remarks 2 weeks ago that I had read all the letters. I had tabulated all the issues, and I felt like obviously some of them were very strong and some of them were less strong. I have to filter out. Sometimes there's something we call not in my backyard, NIMBY things, and those come up with almost any type of a rezone that's maybe a little questionable. But then there's other things that are very strong opinions. And so you have to mix the public opinion with what the laws are, what logic is, what's best for the city. It's a judgment call. That's what I would say. I don't think, I think there's some people think it should be this way. There's a word called clamor, that if there's a crowd here with 30 people, that we need to go that way. I don't agree with that because they might have other issues on their mind. I try to do the right thing. Others can speak for themselves. So just try to mix logic, the rule, the good for the city, the good for neighborhoods, and then listen to all of your opinions.
Yeah. Well, the other question I have is, do any of you have a number of how many illegals have come into Logan City?
You mean
have
immigrants?
illegal-
Immigrants?
Yeah, they're illegal aliens, but do you know how many are here?
No,
No?
No. I don't have a number. No.
Is there a processing place here for them when they come?
No.
I've never heard any news or statistics on it.
We're a city, and that would be a federal process, so.
The county might know.
Is there an FBI office here? Logan City?
I don't think they know either.
Okay. Thank you very much for letting me speak. Do you need my name, by the way?
Yes, yes, please.
Joanne Bennett. I'm in Logan, West Logan. Do I say a precinct or whatever?
No.
No, that's
Okay.
okay.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nicole Bernard. I actually just have a question. I'm just looking at the agenda here, and on item 8, it has like public hearing, and then C and D are continued. Are those also open for public comment?
No.
No, so C and D are not open for any type of public comment
No.
on that? Okay.
Yeah, their public hearing was previously, before they got continued.
Okay. So then are we not allowed to make any type of comment on those items?
On those
Like even
specific
here, right
items,
here?
no.
Like, not at that time? I'm sorry, I'm just confused.
Because they're on the agenda for tonight, but they're not a public hearing, we wouldn't necessarily open comment for those specific items.
Okay.
But we have been taking emails and phone calls and personal visits and all those things for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I've had 3 people visit with me about it today. And I've gotten at least 3 emails as well too, so.
Thank you. If we are, anybody else that would like to address the council or the mayor? We'll continue with our agenda. Next, we have mayor and staff reports.
All right, the first item is a flood update, and we will have Sam Odd from our Public Works Department give that for us tonight.
Hello, council. We've seen a little bit more action this week on flooding. I guess just some brief overviews. We're doing daily, multiple times a day, checks of the rivers at various sites along the Logan River and Blacksmith Fork River. And that's a coordinated effort between all the departments of the city, especially our police department is helping out in the middle of the night, watching key locations for debris or other concerns that we would have. Our public works crews are going out daily and clearing that debris off bridges, the Crockett diversion. We've done a lot this week of clearing debris. So I guess I would just like to pass along that we are actively watching the river throughout the day and night. As far as outlook goes, we look to NOAA. That's kind of the official forecasting for our river flows. I'm cautious in saying this, but the Blacksmith Fork River has hit a flood stage. It hit the flood, and it seems to be trending downwards now. That's what the outlooks are telling us. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into those, and so they could be wrong, but we're optimistically hoping that they are correct and that we've seen the peak on the Blacksmith Fork River. The Logan River is kind of the opposite. We are starting to climb in river flows. By next week, we expect to be nearing the flood stage, and that will continue to rise over the rest of the month. But we'll continue to watch that and be aware of it. We, just as some numbers, we estimate we've filled about 40,000 sandbags in the last 2.5 months. And so those are out in our community, hopefully making a difference. And we've done 7 sandbagging events in neighborhoods where we've brought our public works trucks and filled sandbags with community volunteers. So we've done that 7 times in the last month. And so we're getting those sandbags out in the community. I guess any other questions I can answer? Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, I live over in the Sumac area, and I look at the footbridge almost daily. It looks like there's about 2 feet of freeboard or between the river height now and where the sandbags are. Is that approximately where you're sitting?
Yeah, and so as you recall, we put a stake in everyone's yard along the river, kind of showing where the floodplain is predicted, and then the freeboard of 1 foot above. So it varies from yard to yard. There at Sumac Park that you're talking about, the neighborhood has sandbagged up to about that 1 foot freeboard. So your observations are probably correct, yes.
Again, that's when they watch that, that footbridge may need to be closed in the next week or 2 as the river continues to rise a little
So
bit. So they're watching.
Sam, I heard through the grapevine that they might be opening Crockett diversion this week.
I heard the same thing. Yeah, I know they've been doing flushing.
And cleaning.
Cleaning.
Yeah.
And yes, that it'll be opened in the next couple days to a week is what we've heard as well.
And that will take some pressure off.
That will take some. Unfortunately, it's not as much as we would like.
Right, of course.
When we're dealing with 1,200 CFS right now, the Crockett's taking 1/10 of that, if at all. So it will take some off. It won't take a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Prologue Canal, which is above the Crockett, they had the landslide that came down, and I understood they were going to try to do a camera
Yes.
scoping of that. Has that been completed?
I know that our public works crews went out last week to look at if it was possible to camera, and if it was, they were going to do it. I don't have the results of that. I can follow up with you on that, on whether they were able to get the camera through it. But yeah, you're correct. We wanted to camera it, see if it had been impacted because of that landslide before they started turning water into it.
But that hasn't been done yet.
I don't know. I'll follow up with you on that.
Okay.
You guys are working hard.
It's keeping us busy for sure.
Yeah. And I drove out in the valley on Sunday and I was just amazed. I've never seen the Bear River that big.
Yeah, a lot of water.
Yeah.
Any updates on the bridge on First West and 600 South? Are we getting close?
To having
The bridge open, yeah.
The winter obviously set us back more than we had hoped. The bridge has been used for some of the business access, but we're hoping to have 100 West open mid to end July.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
That's not that far off.
No, it's coming up.
It's exciting.
Especially since our next meeting's in June.
I know.
Thank you, Sam.
Hardly wait to ride across it.
All right, item 6B is Rasakina is going to give us a report on a grant award from the National Fitness Campaign. As part of receiving that award, he does need to report that in council meetings, so.
Right, and there's actually 2 parts to this grant. One is typically what you see when we put it through as a budget resolution. That part's being worked on. This first part is part of the grant program's protocol is to have public record of it. What this is a $30,000 grant for an outdoor public fitness court that this organization, National Fitness Campaign, nationwide nonprofit that is solely in the business of promoting and providing outdoor fitness equipment for the public to use. I'm aware of, I think, 2 other locations here in the state, but I haven't pinned those down yet. We have that conversation tomorrow with them. But there are around 50 other municipalities nationwide that have been awarded grant programs like the one we've received. Yeah. And it fits into a larger project component that we're currently working on too. So we're actually not looking at doing it this year. This is actually for next year. But to get the ball rolling with the grant, we're working with their grant managers to check off the boxes, if you will, as they process this grant for an outdoor fitness court in Logan. So our purpose tonight was to make sure that it was on record, that we have done that step, and then tomorrow we have a Google Meet with the grant manager to take us through the rest of that process. And then we'll be back again when this is actually on as a budget resolution. Any questions to that?
Well, that's pretty exciting though.
This will be included as part of the new Logan Regional Park Complex. So, thank you, Russ.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thanks, Russ.
Appreciate that. And that's the end of my report for the evening.
That's exciting. Thank you. Next on our agenda, we have a Planning Commission update.
Okay, now I'm going to have to remember what it was that was on. What was the one? Tell me. Oh, the 22. Yeah. Tony Johnson will be converting the upstairs of the event center by the mall into 22, 23, 21 apartments. Some of them will be called micro apartments, just so you know. I had to figure out what that was, but Mike said that was all taken care of during the
Now, where is that? I know the mall.
event center, the old theater. The old man theater.
All right, okay.
So it's the old man lofts now.
Old man. That means I can go
It's an MANN.
21
21.
in that space.
Yes, in the upstairs only.
The difference one letter makes, you know.
21.
So, and that was the only thing that they discussed. So,
That was it.
well, yep, that was all they had to do.
I know there's other exciting things coming, so
Yes, excitement is coming.
I'll try and be
But you
patient.
know, sometimes they have it like this. They have a little breather.
Yeah, so that happens for us too, so.
Yep.
Next on our agenda is just a reminder that we will have our second budget workshop. We had one a week ago. We'll have our second one a week from today, May 23rd at 5:30.
I'll be out of town on a family event. I won't be able to connect in. But I'll miss you.
Please excuse me as well.
We'll
I'm
miss
out
you
of
too.
town.
Yeah.
We'll miss you.
For which day?
The 23rd?
23rd.
For the budget
Oh,
workshop.
for the budget
You
workshop.
best be here.
I'll be all dressed. I'll dress up nice again.
Next, we have our action items. And our first one is a public hearing regarding our CDBG Community Development Block Grant. And Amanda, would you walk us through this?
Okay, I'm presenting the funding recommendation for the Community Development Block Grant 2023 Annual Action Plan. The estimated funding for project year 2023 is $567,134. And the steering committee is recommending the funding of 4 infrastructure projects totaling $398,000, Bragg's housing project for $55,000, and $113,000 for CDBG admin and planning. The 100 West 200 South pedestrian crossing project will construct 2 bulb outs on each corner of the 100 West, 200 South intersection and install 2 pedestrian-activated crossing signs. The 600 South Main Sidewalk project will install a new multi-use sidewalk along 600 South that will connect the West Side Trail with the proposed tunnel under Main Street. The 500 West Street Improvements project will install new sidewalk, curb, gutter, asphalt, and landscaping to complete the streetscape along 500 West. The 100 North, 500 East sidewalk project will install new sidewalk, curb, gutter, and ADA ramps along 100 North from 500 to 800 East. And this one is set as a receiver project to receive any excess funding up to $200,000. And the Lundstrom Park sidewalk will install a new multi-use trail along 1350 North and 1700 East. And this will also be funded as a receiver project, up to $111,000. The Bragg Emergency Home Repair Program is requesting $55,000 to provide eligible LMI households up to $4,500 each for minor home repairs that, if neglected, would pose a potential health and safety threat, such as water, sewer, roof, and electric. And this project will benefit approximately 11 families. And then the admin and planning for $113,000. That's it. Any questions?
I think it would be good to clarify that when we accepted applications for this program from nonprofit organizations, that we had a real shortage of eligible projects, which is why most of these have turned into infrastructure projects.
Correct. Yes.
Other comments, questions? Everybody's quiet today.
Because we got email about Rana, so.
Oh, that's right.
Well,
I can't hear anything.
we've
We
heard
know
this
that.
multiple times, so we've been over this multiple times. You've done a great job explaining.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll entertain a motion.
We have to have a public hearing.
Sorry. This is a public hearing, so if you'd like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name and your place of residence. All right, bring it back to the council. Now I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve Resolution 23-12.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Resolution 23-12 passes. Thank you, Amanda. Next, we have a public hearing on Resolution 23-15. Mike, would you please?
Yeah, just real briefly, this is a request to amend the annual action plan from 2019 to reallocate residual COVID money that we have through CDBG, and the amount is $210,163. And what we want to do is put that money towards trail improvements, which will meet some of the intents of COVID. So I have to answer your questions.
Because of the COVID wanted us to spend money on things that got people active outdoors, and
Yeah.
in addition to some other things, that's why the trails are a good idea.
Yeah, it meets the whole intent behind the COVID CDBG money to prepare for, respond to either a pandemic involving COVID or a future pandemic, but the idea is to get people outside, fresh air, and the ability to kind of spread out a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions before we open it up? This is a public hearing. If you'd like to comment on this specific item, please come up to the mic and state your name and place of residence.
Dr. Gail B. Yost, living in Logan on First East. I just wanted to know if in these trails there are places like benches or water fountains or even facilities, restrooms, that will be sporadically available to those who are using the trails. Simple question.
Mike, is that something you can answer?
With this amount of money, probably no. It's not that much money, and those types of improvements are pretty expensive. What we want to do is $160,000 will go towards the Spring Creek trail to widen that out now. It might have a couple of benches on either end, but it doesn't have water fountains or bathrooms. And the residual is about $50,000. It would provide enough money to do that.
But once you get to Trapper Park, then there are restrooms.
Correct.
So,
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to comment on this specific item? Bring it back to the council.
I move we approve Resolution 23-15.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Resolution 23-15 passes.
Is there any, I was just looking at this, do we need to say anything about that? No?
it's posted.
Okay,
It's just kind of an FYI for council.
okay, thank you.
Our next action item is rezone. Ordinance 23-16 was continued from our last meeting on May 2nd. Council, do you guys need?
I believe Craig might have an update for us.
Yeah, so the developer did offer a deed restriction. It was discussed last meeting. The deed restriction limited the density to 5.3 acres, or 5.3 units per acre. I think the last time we discussed it was 6.0, so it's decreased a little bit. And that deed restriction applies to all of the parcels that it's reported against. So this deed restriction will be recorded tomorrow and will be applied to all of the properties and will run with the land. So subsequent purchasers will also be subject to this deed restriction. A couple of other highlights of the deed restriction. There's a maximum of 84 townhomes.
Instead of?
Instead of 124, aren't they?
Okay.
And then the 6,000 square foot lots, we inserted a minimum of 24 lots. So those will be included. If the property were sold off, these deed restrictions would still apply. If some of the properties developed and say it's developed into the 84 townhomes, the rest of the deed restrictions would apply to the new owners. So they couldn't build townhomes, they'd have to build according to what's in this deed restriction.
According to the submitted plan, correct?
Yeah, and that was a part of the deed restriction, is that the concept plan that's attached to it will be substantially similar to what's built there.
Okay. With the open space.
With the open space, yeah.
5.8.
So just to confirm, you said initially they submitted a deed restriction that was, I think, 5.9 or almost 6, but it's now been reduced to 5.3, which brings down the townhomes units.
And the townhome units decreased 124, 26 down to 84.
Thank you, Craig.
40, yeah.
So I think, based on the comment that we had earlier, I think it's important for people to understand that we did hear what you said. And we did hear the fact that you were willing to accept a compromise. And there were many people, don't frown at me, there were many people who said they were willing to accept a compromise that we received letters from. And we worked with the developer behind the scenes and in front of the scenes to cut down on the density. So I think that in in that respect, we try to honor the neighborhood as well as the developer who's invested in this particular piece of property and the future of Logan City.
All set.
Any other comments before we?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think what I heard in the meeting that was held just within the Woodruff neighborhood was, concerns about traffic impact and density, and so I'm comfortable that producing 40 townhome units will result, even though there'll still be an increase in traffic, it will be a reduction in some of those concerns that were raised. And I appreciate that, we still need to look at the issues of housing availability in our community, and that's a real concern that we're hearing. And I think one of the concerns that I have too is, we've heard consistently from people at the state legislature level that if communities don't do things to add housing, they're going to jump in and they're going to make regulations that would govern every single community and take away a lot of the ability that we have at this point in time to try to figure out what works best for our community. So I'm happy to be able to look at that 5.3 density, which is somewhere between the NR4 and the NR6. And I know people do have concerns about the fact that there's going to be townhomes in that development. I actually had someone write to me and say, is this what you would want in your neighborhood? And I actually responded to them and said, actually, yes.
Absolutely. I did the same thing.
We downsized our home because we wanted to try to find something smaller and stay in the neighborhood that we were in, and there's nothing like that. So, we did rent a townhome for a period of time. Now we're able to rent a house, but I would have loved the opportunity to have something that was lower maintenance in the neighborhood that I live in. And, so it's balancing. I know that's my personal opinion. I know other people don't agree with that. But I think this idea of having a mix to serve different ages, stages, and buying power is a good thing overall for the city. And I hope that the neighborhood, as the project proceeds, come to see that it's not going to have as much of a negative impact as many of them fear.
And the developer also agreed to do all of the street improvements from the...
Right. Did we get that resolved?
Yeah, we did get that resolved. That is also in the deed restriction that, so phase 1 is the one that is in the center, and phase 2 moves east. So the road improvements on 6th South from phase 1 over towards 10th West will be completed. Phase 3 is on the west side, and that portion will not yet be completed until that phase is done.
And when you say road, that means sidewalk, curb, and gutter. So the sidewalk will be completed, which will be a nice safety feature. And there was recently a really interesting, well-rounded KSL article on housing in Utah and sort of some of the challenges and the ways to potentially address that. I'm going to email that to council, and I'll also have Teresa post that on the website if others in the audience are interested in looking at that again. It also gave people a chance to comment on a state survey about growth that people are doing, but it really was pretty interesting in laying out some of the challenges, some of the potential solutions, and just trying to create a variety of housing options for people. So we'll get that posted tomorrow if anyone wants to look back at the website and take a look at that, and I'll email it to council.
I will say also that with regard to Mrs. Bennett's comment, I read some of the additional email that were sent to us, which were focused primarily on the townhomes and the struggle that they had with the number of townhomes. And I reached out to the developer and asked if there was a compromise, and they were willing to consider that. And obviously that's a compromise, but I think it's a good thing, and it's a reasonable thing. It cuts out somewhere in the nature of 40 of the townhomes and adds single-family homes. And that's a compromise. It may not be what you like, may not be what everybody likes, but as the mayor had just said, we are somewhat pressed by the state government I also appreciate what Jeannie and Amy have just said. I think I agree with them totally.
So Russ, in light of this, since we do not have a zone that would fit this type of project, we've done a deed restriction. Is this something we should look at to maybe add a zone?
Well, we're currently working on a PD overlay that would apply in these kind of situations where you're kind of in between zones.
Because we don't have a perfect zone for this.
Or you have, no, we don't have a perfect zone for this particular project, but where you have unique circumstances like wetlands or other constraints, the PD overlay could be a good option for folks as we move forward into the future.
Because I think as a council, at least myself, I like the idea of the public space, the open space, and the walk areas, but we don't have a zone that would fit this. So we have to look at MR9, but the deed restrictions going to keep it less than 6.
Correct.
So can I add one more thing too? I don't want people to think like all 5 of us were behind closed doors debating and discussing this with the developer. I just got a phone call from them today saying, this is our new plan. And then Craig emailed me saying that the deed restriction was under work. So I communicated with them what I perceived from the concerns that came to me from the public. So I just hope people don't think based on the comments that we've made that there were compromises made. It doesn't mean that we were secretly behind closed doors hatching something, because I worry about that. I think that all of us on the council, because I could speak for myself and one other person, as Tom said, just communicated directly with the developer. Here's our concerns, what could be done. So just want to make sure that that's kind of out there publicly.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's one of those things where we work with different members. I talked to Craig. I did not talk to the developer. But expressing those concerns, and we do once in a while talk to each other and express those concerns and how can we come to a resolution. But yeah, you're right. It wasn't behind closed doors. I'm sorry.
No, you didn't imply that. I know people wonder how, that question was asked. How do you make decisions?
Yeah.
We don't meet outside of council meetings and publicly discuss or decide or debate on what should or shouldn't be done. So
We've definitely worked with the neighborhood chair in multiple opportunities to try and figure out what would work the best. So.
And I will say, we received one letter where they wanted a percentage instead of a percentage of single family versus townhouses. And I hope we've gotten closer to that with this. It was a little late in the stage for that to be, we probably should have talked about that a long time ago if we wanted to implement that.
So I made the motion last week. I also made the motion to continue it. I don't know if that original motion is on the table, but I'll withdraw that and make a new motion that we accept the 5.3 density, the reduced count as was described.
So I think we're going to make the motion to approve, or if that's what direction you want to go, ordinance 2316 with the deed restriction as offered by Rivergate LLC. Just reference that so it's on the record.
I'll make the motion that we accept the deed restriction as referenced at 5.3 density. Is that correct?
A motion to approve the ordinance and then with the deed restriction.
To approve the ordinance 2316.
I also wanted to add that after our meeting, the last couple weeks, I've taken the time to actually go to some of the recent developments by the developer to look at what they've been doing. Mark has as well on different times. Just to see, I specifically went to the Ridgeline development in Nibley to see what the mix of all these new types of housing looks like, and I must say I was impressed. And when we hear the potential negatives that people perceive, And at the same time, we look at the potential positives that it will bring and the opportunities that will bring to people that are not able to afford a big house, a quarter-acre land and a 3,000 to 4,000 square foot house. I am thankful that we have this type of opportunity to provide some opportunities for people that are looking to start owning a home. So it's been moved to approve ordinance 23-16
With the deed restriction as
with
presented.
the updated deed restriction.
I'll second it.
Being moved and seconded. Any other comments before we vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay.
I represent Woodruff, so I say nay.
Ordinance 23-16 passes. Also want to thank every single person that was involved in this process, because it's probably one of the most, comprehensive, thoughtful, lots of input. Lots of us attended the neighborhood council meeting. So I want to thank all of the people that showed to those meetings to voice your opinions, because in the end, it actually did influence the outcome.
Absolutely.
I'd say quite a bit. So thank you, everyone that was involved.
And I thank them for being willing to compromise too.
Yes, thank you. Next in our agenda, we have ordinance 23-10. Mike, would you review this for us?
Yep. Okay, ordinance 23-10, amendments to the public area of the Land Development Code, and a little background on it. Several months ago, we realized that we didn't have any real clear definition or guidance on how or where to locate a homeless resource center, a homeless shelter, or even a receiving center. And it wasn't clear whether or not our current code would even approve them based on the regional impacts and regional nature of those types of facilities. So we came up with a process that provides a legislative process, which is through this body, to review a siting location through a zone change, and then also a conditional use process, which would go through the Planning Commission, which is more about operational and situational types of impacts and how do you deal with those issues. So the way we've set this up is it's defined as if you want to do a homeless center or homeless shelter, you have to rezone the property to public and then go through this process as well as the Planning Commission. So we made some changes, but let me just cover what was changed from the last meeting. And I think most of you met with various interested parties in this. So we modified the proximity limitation we had in there and put in the verbiage that just references a homeless shelter or homeless resource center, and took out a mental health facility and anything within 300 feet of a public or private park, school, or library. Modified the community service definition to include language about domestic violence survivors or victims are not considered. It's considered a community service as opposed to, a homeless center, things like that. We wanted to make sure that was clear. And then we threw in a map so you can kind of see that 300-foot proximity. The green are the parks, the blue is the library. The idea is primarily we have kids, children that would congregate. We want to make sure there's a little bit of separation there. And then Gina and I were just talking tonight about the way we define behavioral mental health receiving center. The definition is written, leaves out 23-hour non-secure program, so we need to include that back into the definition so it's clear that as we define these types of facilities, that they are not a 24-hour or greater facility, it's 23 hours or less. So.
Yeah, so it says we just need to add the words 23-hour. The rest of it's there.
Yeah, within that definition. So, other than that, happy to answer your questions.
comments, questions?
I'd like to say that I appreciated the time I had talking to everyone at Bear River Mental Health. I thought it was a good conversation that opened my eyes, and I hope that they had some additional thoughts as well. But I felt like it was productive, and I'm glad that they gave us that opportunity. So.
Great meeting.
So I did get some questions related to the homeless piece of this. I just want to share with folks. So one of the questions was related to the services that could be provided for warming center and domestic service providers. That the question is can you clarify that they're able to provide case management services underneath that community service definition?
Case management services?
Yeah, I personally don't see that as an issue because I think it's pretty clear what obviously CAPS already provides case management services, so it wouldn't be changing that, but that would not be an issue as far as.
I wouldn't think so, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it would be.
And then the other comment was that by including proximity limitation language, individuals and families experiencing homelessness are stigmatized as potentially dangerous to other community members, even if that wasn't the intention. So the question is, could we clarify how those proximity limitations were determined and what the intention is of employing a proximity limitation?
Yeah, I think, and not trying to stigmatize a homeless facility, but using the analogy of the state's rules for alcohol. There are requirements that when you locate a restaurant or a bar, you stay away from certain types of uses. The belief is that they're not compatible. So what we looked at is, are there areas in the city that probably are not suitable for this type of facility, whether you have a lot of transiency or whether you have a lot of traffic coming and going, whether you have people that you don't know. We felt that it was probably appropriate to try to avoid areas where small kids would be, so whether it was a park or a school or a library. We did put daycares in, those tend to be a little more controlled, but we just felt that they are probably not appropriate everywhere in the city. There's probably better locations in certain parts of the city, and that's again why we set this process up, so it goes through that two-tiered processing where you request the rezone. That's vetted through a legislative process, through you, through the public. People can have a chance to say this is good or bad, and then through the CUP process, which puts some operational restrictions on it. But that's kind of the logic behind that.
So I know that so the request, which came from some of the members of the Warming Center Board, was to postpone voting on it so that there could be more research and discussion with people who are involved in homeless services, just related to the impact that this legislation that this change might have. So just sharing those thoughts with people. I don't know if other council members have any concerns about that or have questions about them.
We had a great discussion with them. I totally am in support of the receiving center. I've been in that situation as a caregiver before, not know where to go, not know what to do, not know how to help the people that you want to help, and it's difficult, and I think this would be a great option. I know the Sheriff's Department is in support as well too, so.
I guess I would like to get this on the books so that the receiving center has a pathway forward.
Yeah.
And we have all the definitions, and if it proves that we've got some issues, we can come back and talk about the different pieces later. That would be my thought.
I like that.
But
that being said, I'd move for acceptance of ordinance 23-10.
with the change in the definition.
The change in the definition.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any other comments before?
I guess I would say that just as we probably should have notified the receiving center folks that this change was coming down the board. I think you probably should have been more proactive in letting individuals who do provide services to the homeless population be aware as well. I know they feel that there was not adequate notice given, and that that opportunity to kind of weigh in maybe pass them by. So just want to make sure that we are aware of that, so as we move forward, or if we do pass this tonight and we do recognize that there's a change, that there is a willingness to look at this ordinance again to see if we do need to make changes to properly address the needs and concerns of that vulnerable population.
Thank you. We have a motion that's been seconded as well. Are we ready to vote? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
Ordinance 23-10 passes. Next, we have a public hearing, Resolution 23-18, budget adjustments. Rich, would you review this real quick?
It's a request to appropriate $11,451 from the sale of a fire vehicle back toward the purchase of fire rolling stock.
Any comments before?
That was so quick.
No,
Thank you, Rich.
I can expound.
It's okay. We hear enough from during the budget meetings.
This is a public hearing. If you'd like to comment on this specific item on the agenda, please come up to the mic and state your name. Bring it back to the council.
I would move acceptance of resolution 23-18.
And I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say
How
nay.
controversial can we be on the...
Resolution 23-18 passes. Next, we have our workshop items. First, we have Resolution 23-16, presented by Chief Haddock.
Didn't we just talk about this like a week ago?
Doesn't it feel like
Oh
it?
my gosh, it's crazy.
So per state statute, you as the legislative body are required to determine geographical areas for fireworks. This usually is done before May 1st, but we had so much snow on the ground, we weren't really thinking about it last month. So here we are at that time of year. We were recommending the same changes we made last year, and even though we've had a heavy winter and we're dealing with flooding conditions and all of this such right now, that extra water is obviously going to
Go to the Great Salt Lake.
vegetation. So we may, right, and that could potentially be issues later on in the year. This is the difficult part of this legislative mandate, is that it makes it difficult for us to make changes. We have to do it and hope that we got it right. We try to control it through how we enforce it. So if the weather's good, the conditions are good, we do less enforcement. But the prediction is always in late July, especially the 24th, is always our greatest concern with the time period, and we can't really tell what that's going to look like, right? Because conditions can deteriorate rapidly with some warm weather. So our recommendation again is to stay with the changes we made last year, keeping it 12th. North Logan is going to stay consistent with that as well. So as we cross through those two borders of the canyon, a lot of those stay the same.
Oh, good, good.
So they followed your lead last year and went to the 12th, which is good for both communities to stay, remains fairly consistent there. And so our recommendation is that we do the same. Any questions for me?
Nope, I'm in favor of that.
If it snows on July 2nd, can we still do fireworks in the restricted area?
Shame on you, Mark.
Well, this year, it's like, it's likely
Chief, what
to
is
have
this
snow
notch
on the
down
2nd.
east of River Heights? I'm not familiar with what that represents.
Over here?
Yeah, that little notch.
It's right here.
Memorial Day, so.
I believe that is city, is that?
That's our boundary.
It's our boundaries.
Or did you mean the piece next to it?
The L-shaped piece,
Yeah, I
Down at the
think,
bottom?
yeah.
Yeah, that's still part of Logan City, I believe.
But River Heights sticks into it.
I think you're talking about.
Right, so we kind of wrap around.
Yeah, I'm
River
talking
Heights.
about
He's
that.
talking about that piece,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, we wrap around River Heights on that bench area.
It seems like a carve out of River Heights. I mean,
It's not, it's actually I believe those are our boundaries. They just kind of wrap around River
all
Heights.
right, and on the west side, is that county land in between those? You roll it down a little bit. West of the golf course. Yeah,
That notch out? up
Right there.
That is county.
go up.
Keep going,
No, move your little cursor up there.
up to here?
No, right there. Stop.
There.
Yes,
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
county land.
I
Is that
believe that's
county?
County Island.
Okay.
Yeah, and we don't have, they actually prohibit all, so they have the ability to just cut it off for all county areas pretty quickly. So they usually do based on,
I guess I need to learn my boundaries a little bit.
I know, they're very.
Perfect.
Isn't that the
Thank you.
okay.
That's
You came all that way just for that.
Edge of River Heights.
That's what I was
I know, we're a long way back.
From the back row is a long way.
Well,
Maybe that
I was at the
Johnson
Capitol at
Park,
4
the
o'clock.
Yeah, that's what I said. He came a long way just for that.
2.5 hours, no problem.
Thank you. Rich, we have budget adjustments.
A few items to consider, mostly, well, all of them are grants and a donation. First one is a request to appropriate $21,569 for police overtime shifts being reimbursed. A request to appropriate donated funds of the amount of $37,000 toward the purchase of artwork for the new library. A request to appropriate $79,000 of state funds received through Cache County to be used for flood equipment and supplies. And lastly, a request to appropriate $7,850 of donated funds that were donated to the police department that will go toward their annual banquet this year.
Can we fix the wording on 79,000 funds engineering received from Cache County to be used? Because it doesn't make any sense.
No, we can't change it.
And just a little clarification,
Yeah.
on the 37,000 donated funds, it's actually for sculptures for the library plaza.
Nice.
specifically.
Excellent.
That's so exciting.
I know, it really is.
I can hardly wait to see the library. So much fun.
All right, thank you. Any other considerations? Do we want to mention any of this?
It's just kind of for your information, we posted it, we've sent it to the media and posted it on, the city website, just concerning the Creekside RV flooding that we've been advising them for at least 6 weeks. It is a mobile home park, and we advise them to leave because it floods every time there's high water, and many of them have been through that before, so.
And it's flooded.
Yeah.
Yes, but they chose not to heed our advice.
It was going to happen. I just want to tell everybody thanks for taking the time and making the effort to really put some thought into the Sugar Creek. I think that was the best solution we could come up with the options that we had. So thank you, Amy. Thank you, Jeannie. Thanks, Tom, Ernesto. I think everybody did a great job spending extra time on that, Craig. Deed restriction. I think it's a really, really good compromise, and I apologize for voting the way that I did. I'm very supportive, but I represent Woodruff. I heard what they had to say. So.
I think compliments to the neighborhood chair. Melissa went way beyond.
She went way beyond. Yep. She really put a lot of effort into it, and I commend her for really trying to make this work. And I know she spent a lot of time with Ben to do it as well too, and she was trying her best to represent her neighborhood. So I think we did a really good job. Thank you.
So I do have a question. I know that this is a election year, and just if we could get clarification on the process for people who might be interested in running for office. June, I know, is the time where that happens, but Teresa, maybe you could share if you have those dates off the top of your head of how that process works.
Yep, do that. Filing is June 1st through the 7th, and they need to come in person to City Hall to do the paperwork, and it's Monday, June 1st through the 7th, and they have to come in and see me and do the paperwork here at City Hall, and it's 8 to 5. They have to be a resident of Logan for the past year, and be a registered voter, of course, and
Have thick skin.
Yes. Yeah. What's our dates? What's our dates again?
June 1st.
June 1 to 7.
June 1st through the 7th.
And a registered voter, so you just have to be
I know.
18 or older.
I could be really busy at that point, so.
So that's a Tuesday for a window?
Yeah.
For the whole week.
18 and older.
Really?
Is it not to 5 through 9?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so it's part of 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's on the yes, though.
Okay.
So it starts on a Thursday.
Okay.
It's Thursday, Friday.
I'm glad you
And then
put
it
it.
ends on Wednesday.
Okay, I've told at least 2 people wrong. I will fix that. I thought it was the first full week in June, so that's good to know.
First through the 7th.
And there's 3 at-large
Yeah,
seats.
there's 3 at-large seats.
And no mayor.
No mayor. 3.
We have a mayor.
She's not up for election.
She's not, but the
Not yet.
And neither is Amy, for that matter.
Yeah.
3 seats.
the 3 seats.
Yeah, Amy Ernesto and I are safe this time.
So if we only have 6 people that apply, then we don't have to have primaries.
Correct. If
But we have
7
more.
7 file, there will be a primary,
Okay.
which is in August 15th.
Would be a primary.
You said those 3 were safe, and I'm safe too.
That's very true,
You are
7 or more.
because you are not running again.
I'm safe.
Okay.
Nobody can vote against me.
And so the ballot initiative that was being
Yeah.
attempted
So-
did not qualify with enough signatures.
So when did you run the first time, Tom? When did you get in on council the first time? What year?
12.
In 2012?
Then he took a little sabbatical.
Took a sabbatical.
Yeah, I served all of 12 and then 3/4 of 13, and Jeannie took my place. And then I came back and sat, well, I was on planning commission a year,
And then ran again.
and then I ran again.
Yeah, Jeannie beat me out for the seat.
Way to go.
The
Way to go,
appointment,
way
when
to
it
go,
was-
Jeannie, yeah.
When there was an
An
appointment
appointment, yeah.
to replace.
I didn't
Tom.
do it.
I know, the
The
other
council did it.
Council did it.
But then look, you came and ran for your
Yeah,
own
you had
right.
more
and-
experience than she did, for sure.
So we should tell, it really is a rewarding job. I mean, there are days where, every job has its day that there are frustrations, but it is really, I think, rewarding to see what you can do to serve your community and the difference you can make if you're willing to serve, so that's our pitch for tonight.
This was,
Run, Lola, run.
This message is brought to you
but there
by
was at least 2, maybe 3 others that were difficult. The one up on the lofts, up on north of the old cemetery, not cemetery,
Gravel
trailer
fence.
court, where you,
Where I rented.
where you rented.
Yeah.
And the T1, we had some, where L59 is, that was somewhat difficult.
But again, we
It
came up with
required
a good
a
compromise.
lot of compromise.
And Center Block Plaza.
Center block was difficult.
Some changes.
So I think that-
listening and-
I think that it's, our process, my process is to gather as much information as I can, understand what the pros and the cons are, listen to the people who are speaking, and try and craft a solution that accomplishes maybe 2 goals. Maybe is a little bit what the people who were opposed to it wanted, and a little bit is given up by the people who want it. And that's the definition of compromise anyway.
Yeah.
but it's between, I don't want neighbors to think that we don't listen to them ever, because we do. And I don't want them to ever think that their opinions are not worthwhile, because they are. Quite frankly, we would never have gotten down to 5.3 had it not been for the neighborhood.
Yeah.
And we would not have gotten the road done all the way to 10th West in the beginning instead of afterwards.
Whatever they felt like.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think there are some definite positives that we did obtain. I know for a fact that I know people, several people who are aging in place in very large houses, and they would like nothing better than to have a smaller alternative in their neighborhood, because they want to stay where they know everybody. And so I hope that this will be a combination of new people coming in that the neighborhood can embrace, and older people like their parents or themselves who decide they want to live there because they love their neighbors and they still want to be in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So
I thought Joanne's question was great, and it's something that I'd look at seriously. You've got public opinion, but you've also got the property owner who owns the property, and I hate telling people what they can do with their property, because I've been told on multiple occasions what I can do with my property, and
Is it always polite?
it's never polite. No.
well, this is a property rights state.
This is what I was like. If you go to, and I say this really nicely because I am on the Historical Preservation Committee, not on, but I'm there. If I go to Historical Preservation, I take 3 plans, not one. I take 3. The one that I want, the one that I'm okay with, and the one that I have to do just to make it work. Because I know I'm going to get one of them passed. But if you just take one, you'll never get through, and you have to go back again. You have to do the process all over again. So it's the property owner sometimes doesn't get much weight in what's going on, but you've got the people who are nearby property owners. You've got the law that we've got to follow. There's common sense. There's logic, like Tom said. You've got the future owners that we really need to think about. Who's going to be owning that property? They don't have a voice right now. We really need to kind of look at what they're going to do. And then we've got the state legislature sticking their fingers in right now as well too. So it's like you got 7 entities that all get a chunk of that. Whose portion is going to be the most important?
I think they're sticking a whole arm in.
Yeah.
Not just fingers.
So it's hard to balance all that stuff out and listen to, who's it really going to impact. I love what you said, Jeannie. If you can get like 2 or 3 goals out of that will, match and maybe not everybody's happy, but at least you found something that kind of works for everybody. That's a great option. So that's why I said thanks to
I
everybody.
want to do a compliment to the community. I've served almost 10 years now. And in 10 years, I've had 1 phone call that was angry. 1.
That's it?
Yes. And my wife took it, and it didn't go well. But the fact was, when I finally went and met with this gentleman, it turned out to be nothing to do with the city. So really, there was nothing where anybody, there were email and text messages that were disagreeing, but not disagreeable. And it's a compliment to our community.
There you go.
Thank you, everyone. We'll adjourn our council meeting and we'll reconvene for our redevelopment agency meeting. First, we have an action item. Kirk, please review this for us.
Sure, you bet. The first item is proposed assistance from the RDA to Mill Creek of Logan Phase 2 LLC, which would provide this project, which is shown on the screen. Phase 2 is on the left, Phase 1 is on the far right. It would effectively double the number of units at Mill Creek, and the RDA would be participating with $100,000 from its Affordable Housing Fund to help the developer offset some costs and different things that they faced with the development of this project. So I can go into further detail show other slides if you'd like, but that's the quick recap.
Thank you. Questions before we do public comment?
I don't have
Terry?
any questions.
Yeah, no, sorry.
No?
Go for the public comment.
This is a public hearing. If you would like to comment on this specific item on the agenda for tonight, please come up to the mic and state your name. We'll bring it back to the council.
I'll move acceptance of, what are we,
23
2317. I think this is
RDA.
RDA. Thank you.
I'll second that.
I think this is an outstanding project. It's in the right place, and it'll help our downtown. It'll help the theater. It's a beautiful building. I compliment the designers and developers for that.
Just remind me, Kirk, the reason why they qualified for the affordable housing money that we could vote on this is because it used to be a blight area. Is that the reason why?
The downtown redevelopment project area, which we have, and that spans over various blocks in the downtown, including the historic downtown. When it was created, a blight analysis was conducted where a third-party consultant came in and did a detailed blight analysis. Because a blight finding was made within the boundaries of that project area, any affordable housing monies can be deployed for even market rate housing. So it does not need to be affordable housing to use those funds within that project area.
Thank you.
The word blight is always so
I love blight.
descriptive. It's like, whoop.
Blight.
Keep thinking we should have a different word for it.
Did somebody second the motion?
Jeannie did.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, please say nay. Resolution 23-17 RDA passes. Next, we have our only workshop item for tonight, Resolution 23-20 RDA.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Ernesto. So we're with this resolution tonight, and this is granted just a workshop, but we are proposing to you, the board, that the area shown on the screen, which extends from 1400 North Street at the top, southward to 1000 North on the bottom, and then from left to right, it encompasses from Main Street to 200 East. So that area that you see on the screen, which includes the Cache Valley Mall, the PetSmart Shopping Center, and various other areas, we're proposing that that be designated by you as a survey area, which would then authorize the creation within those boundaries of a community reinvestment project area. A community reinvestment project area is essentially a geography where various types of reinvestment, redevelopment, economic enhancement, expansion, those kind of activities could be undertaken by the agency within those boundaries. So by passing this resolution, the board would also be authorizing the continuation of any due diligence, negotiations, those kind of activities, with the end goal being bringing forward to you a project area plan for your consideration. And that same plan would also be made available for a 30-day period prior to a public hearing by the public, so they could issue any comments, feedback to you or in the public setting. So in effect, that's all we're doing tonight, is initiating that process by considering the creation or the establishment of a survey area. Any questions?
So Kurt, for anybody who is here or might be watching, listening online, we create these project areas because it is a way the state has created this method for us to collect property taxes
and utilize them a little bit differently than they might have be otherwise used under just a regular, if you came and built a store.
Yeah, it's, and you're referring to State Code Title 17C, the Community Reinvestment Act is what governs these type of areas and their use, their creation, et cetera. But it is a means for cities, partnering with the private sector to basically deploy property taxes. The agency would receive what we call tax increment, which is the difference between a future valuation of that property less a base value, which is established at the onset of that project area. That is called tax increment, and that can be used to, basically, help facilitate redevelopment activities, expansion activities, anything that economically enhances that area. I think, and I'm glad you brought up that point, because I think it's a good time to just emphasize that base value of property tax, or the entry level of valuation within this boundary, the property tax that's generated up to that point fully goes to the taxing entities per the distribution formula. So it's kind of a held harmless provision where the taxing entities will receive and continue to receive that base level value. So whatever...
They don't receive the increased value for a certain amount of time.
Correct.
A negotiated amount of time, really.
That's right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So can you put, and I know that Logan City owns some property within this area. Can you identify what the parcels are that the city owns?
I'll just kind of put that cursor, it's generally right where I'm waving the cursor there.
Okay.
So that undeveloped ground in the lower right corner toward the intersection of 1000 North 200 East, the city has, I want to say, a couple of acres there, which, yeah.
But not that whole empty parcel?
No. North of the cursor, most of that, well, all of that really is privately held.
I remember once upon a time we considered putting a library there.
It was on that list of, 10 sites or
Yes.
so that we looked at? Isn't it going to be a nice part of our downtown? I like it.
Yes.
So that's all I had, unless there's other questions you might have.
Thank you, Kurt.
You're welcome.
Any other?
So this will be an action item next meeting, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Even though it's a budget workshop, we'll just do that little item after the budget workshop.
Oh,
Correct.
It's on the 1st?
Isn't that
No, it's
planned?
In June, right?
June 1st?
Okay,
Yeah.
June 1st.
all right, I thought, okay, my mistake, sorry.
And will it be a public hearing?
No public hearing. So this, there will be various public hearings in that process, but Kimber indicated that none is needed with this particular item. But you will, as a council, without public hearing, still have the option to
approve the survey.
survey area.
Yeah,
And
because then it goes from there.
Correct.
All right.
All right. Any last comments, outbursts, or?
Tom needs to go home.
All right.
I'll first after you.
Happy birthday to Ron.
Yeah, thank you.
Happy birthday to Ron.